Through my unconventional career path, I have learned it's not what you do, it's who you are. This is the thinking in my head, so keep that in mind. At the age of 47, with two bachelor degrees from one of the most prestigious art schools in the country, I find myself divorced after 17 years of a traditional marriage, living with a woman who is now my wife. It's a good story, so that's another topic. Making barely above minimum wage as a hospital transporter in a small affluent suburb where I grew up. But this was not the only unconventional job I had since obtaining my degrees. I also worked at a craft store in a strip mall, and I also worked at a hardware store selling window treatments for 6 years. I was happy with these jobs. I enjoyed them tremendously. I enjoyed what I did, and I enjoyed the people from who I worked with. However, in social situations when I was asked, what do you do? Every person looked shocked at my response. I would tell them, first of all, However, in social situations when asked, what do you do? Every person looked shocked at my response. I would experience dissonance because while I enjoyed my job, I started to feel embarrassed and ashamed. I felt everyone thought I should be doing more with my education. I masked the shame through humor and euphemisms. This is an example of one of those euphemisms. When someone would ask, what do you do? My response would be, well, I'm a design consultant. These aspects are true about this statement. Yes, I worked in a section called Design Center. Yes, I made suggestions about when people would ask me about their designs. But the real truth was I was selling window treatments in a hardware store. To say I was a design consultant was a bit of a stretch. At that time, I didn't have a clue that feeling embarrassed was all about the ego. I thought that ego was only associated with arrogance, not low self-esteem. My artwork has always been about finding internal beauty. I had a severe skin condition that affected over 90% of my body. I was grossed out every time I looked in the mirror. It took 12 years of intense therapy, hours of painting and journaling to find love for myself. My art became my voice and the strength to find meaning in the ugliness and frustration I felt. So I'm going to explain this picture. Knowledge and wisdom represented by the tree. Wait, I'm like a weatherman here. Where's the tree? So it's placed on the heart, which is our lifeline. The water that breaks through the icy or the rocky ice is ambivalence towards life. There's a stream that runs up, which means clarity, and that breaks through into the open sky, which represents hope. As women, we are not objects to be rated by what is seen on the surface. Yet we are anchors of wisdom that holds humanity together. We are the balance from what would be a big testosterone festival if we did not intercede. The second one is living different experiences, but interconnected, and then loving those aspects that make us different from each other. A shared humanity that doesn't judge each other by what the surface looks like, but instead allows each other to be who we are. The difference about these journeys is that I was able to explore this in the comfort of my protective cave, which would mean me retreating in a place like a studio to figure some of these things out. I did that with painting. In this cave, I surrounded myself with love, approval, and hope. In this cave, I found love for myself. I thought that this would be enough to prepare me for the rest of my life. These paintings are what this is all about. I never experienced emotional nakedness before. But nothing was like the nakedness I felt as a transporter. The experience as a transporter in that first year revealed to me that out of my comfort zone and being challenged, I would go into this hiding or masking mode. My ego disguised itself as shame, insecurity, and defensiveness. For the first time, I learned how insidious my arrogance, how arrogant my ego can be. I judged myself harshly and made everything about myself. I'm going to share examples. There are many examples in that first year as a transporter, but these are what I consider the gut punchers. So on my usual day transporting, I recognized someone who I went to high school with. And it's approaching that time where we have to transport the family. And en route she says, "Monica, right?" And I say, "Yes, I am." And then she proceeds to tell me what she's been doing since high school graduation. And she was doing exactly what she set out to do. At present day, she was a lawyer. Then she asked me, "Are you a nurse?" And my stomach burbled. And in shame, I responded to her, "No, I'm a transporter." She goes, "Oh, wow. Last time I heard you were doing something art-related." I quietly made my exit, and we cordially said our goodbyes. Another example is, this is a fun one. From day one, there was this nurse who challenged me every day with comments. I would see her coming in the distance, and as she's walking closer to me, I'm thinking, wait for it, wait for it, bam! "Why are you pushing beds? Haven't you learned other skills in college?" And I'm thinking to myself, ah. And then, but this has to be one of the more embarrassing. I would, very frequently have to be in and out of the elevators, going to the different floors. And so anticipating someone coming in, and it usually was a resident that was my kid's age, I would actually turn my bag over so that they couldn't see transporter. But then on times when I would forget to do that, they would see transporter and their demeanor would change towards me. This would crush me into my feelings of insecurity. It was my internal thinking. Let me go back. So there was, when I was going through the skin and journeying through that, there was a different, when you have to go through finding who you are in certain situations, there's this unrecognizable version of yourself. And, 10 years later or several years beyond years, as a transporter, I felt that emotional nakedness again. And this time it was, for some reason, more intense. But it wasn't my internal thinking to these comments that lacked humility. My thoughts and responses, though humorous and evading, were sarcastic, and I felt voided of reverence. My hidden defensiveness crumbled everything I thought I stood for. When I was painting, I thought I stood for looking beneath the person or beneath the surface and really, truly looking at who the person is. That first year as a transporter revealed a side to me that I didn't think needed to be addressed, because I didn't really put that much weight into professional titles. And then also still clinging to that thought, it's not what you do, it's who you are. That first year helped me understand the magnitude of what living in the ego can do and the damage that it has when you're trying to learn about who you are. There are two things happening simultaneously. I'm sorry, hold on for a second. Okay. There are two things that were happening simultaneously that I didn't expect and I couldn't help happening. My original intention for accepting the transporter position was the benefits. None of my other work experiences offered this concept of benefits. Personally, I was thrilled. I felt like a real working adult. I never knew how wonderful a 401k could feel. I thought I was just gonna go to work, lay low, let the vacation days rack up, go home, and doodle. That's what I thought. I didn't expect the amazing friendships that were building between the nurses and how the interaction with some of these patients would tug and chisel at my heartstrings. The turmoil of how did I get to this point was masked by a friendly smile, and at the same time transporting a young patient who has terminal cancer and is about to leave a toddler behind. Day after day, observing how these nurses dealt with life-death situations starts to change one's perspective. This experience was a turning point for me. I was transporting this gentleman who opened up the conversation with, "I am a very wealthy man." I'm thinking to myself, "Ooh, I'm gonna slow my roll." And in a very subtle way, I had him continue. And he had said, "I've been married 3 times. And I bullied and cheated on every one of my wives. And I thought I can get away with it. I never thought I can get out of this hospital. But here I am. And this is what I learned." He had said to me, "Shit always happens. But it's how you react to when it happens makes the difference." My reaction was speechless, but I was like, "Wow, thank you for your honesty. That takes a lot of courage." I proceed to help him in the car, and at this point he turns to me and says, "The only person who has remained by my side," and he introduces me to them, so happens to be his work assistant. "This is the only person who's remained at my side." A usual transport takes 20 minutes. This was the 20 minutes that changed my life. I would ponder on this statement. It's how you react when things happen makes the difference. My light bulb moment was, I had a choice. Do my choices fill the ego, or does it bring me closer to my authentic self? The realization was that at that very moment, I was a transporter until I'm not. How do I choose to experience my time here? I continue to be challenged with, what are you doing with your life? However, that didn't have the paralyzing effect that it did at first. I would say to myself, you have a choice. How are you going to react? The tougher, more emotional encounters would just spur me on to be giving and out of myself. Is there anything I can do for you? How can I help? Or just anticipating a need was what I really wanted to excel in. I created a rhythm to my routine. I found healing and comfort in this hospital. My personal work ethic was more about serving with a happy heart. I found places in the hospital that became my haven, and in these places, I would occasionally do a little dance, break out with the song I made. I own this biatch. I was handling the nurses' needs like a shoulder to cook, taking a drive-by tent, going long for a 4x4 in spot 7, and then with my third hand answering the phone, "Dr. Blah Blah on line 1, any takers?" I handled multitasking to the gargantuan degree like a boss. The question to my daily experiences as a transporter became, how do I choose to learn authentic empowerment? These choices open my heart to tenderness happening around me. So I'm going to share an example of the twins. Danny and I were transporting a patient to the pediatric unit. They had just undergone a major procedure that their twin underwent the day before. On the way up, they were asking, "Where's my twin? I need my twin." Danny, in the most comforting voice, said, "We are almost there. You will see your twin soon." We get to the room. They ask again. And at that very moment, the other twin so carefully walks in as if she's learning to walk all over. She stands by the bedside and tenderly holds the twin's hand and strokes her head and says, "I'm here. It's going to be okay." And everyone in the room just looked at each other and just shared this moment. And I believe that if I didn't have that transformation, I would not have been open to those kind of experiences that just really leave you raw. This painting is what I worked on processing and understanding the ego. There is a lady in the moon, and she is a cellular butterfly. That butterfly represents internal transformation. There are many areas in my life where I still have to address this ego of hiding. I am fortunate for what I have learned, though, from the "what are you doing with your life" human aspect of development. It has taught me not to be ashamed of what I do, and that I can offer and bring a lot to the table. It's not what you do, it is who you are. The difference is the intention. All of the pieces of my job experiences makes complete sense to me now. I needed to go through what I did as a transporter in order to prepare me for what I do now. And what I do is I teach visual arts at Snow City, at Central DuPage Hospital, at the hospital. Many of these students have cancer, and they have been through so much medical procedures in their short lives that it has developed a wisdom that would take probably most of us a lifetime to unpack. All that matters at that very moment is, am I present for them? I'm coming to the end of my time here on the stage, but I want us to all think about this. Imagine a world where we aren't shackled by our egos, where we can stand in front of each other and see each other for who we are, which are the qualities of gentleness, compassion, and kindness. What would that look like for all of us? This is a choice. We determine how bright our light will shine in any situation. Thank you, it's been an honor.